Welcome to tonight's Quizzy Monday stream. My name's Gareth and I'm hosting tonight. Just a reminder, if you've not been to one of our streams before, as it says along the bottom, you can post a comment or a question in the chat. So we look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully we'll see a few familiar faces coming back with us. So it's been quite the evening of quizzing tonight. We're going to have a few guests with us. We've got Claire Barrow coming in. She is a contestant on the current series of Mastermind. And we should also have Dave Bill joining us again. He's been with us before. And also we shall have Michael McPartland, who's a past series finalist for Mastermind, and he's been on Only Connect, amongst other things. So, as I said, if you've got a comment or question, please post it in the chat. Unfortunately, if you're watching on catch up, you won't be able to do that. But if you have a comment or a question, post it in the chat and we will bring it up just like this. And our good friend Grace is saying hello. Grace, it's good to have you with us. Lovely to see you joining us on the chat. So that's as easy as that. You post it into the chat, question or comment, and we'll try and bring things up to help us in our discussion. So, first person I'll add is Claire.
Hello.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, Gareth. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you, Claire. Is your microphone on?
I thought it was. Let's have a look.
So, as I say, Claire is a contestant in the current series of Mastermind. Just checking her connection right now.
I don't know how to do it.
Claire, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
No, you can clearly hear me, but I can't hear you. So just for now, I will add Dave Bill into the stream. Hi, Dave.
Hi, guys. You all right?
Oh.
God, can't hear you.
The problem is my end. Claire, can you speak again?
I can hear Claire.
Yeah, I can speak. I can hear you.
Okay, so the perils of live technology and the proof that it's live and not slickly edited was the fact that I had my laptop on mute. So it was me not able to hear people rather than the other way around. So on that auspicious start, thanks to both of you. Glad you could join us today. And thanks to everybody who's with us. Grace has posted in the chat that she could hear Claire. And yeah, sorry, unfortunately, that was my Horlicks. So I'll just bring
for that because I wouldn't have been able to sort it out.
I'll bring Michael into the stream. So we now have everybody. So just for those who are joining us now, Claire is a contestant on the current series of Mastermind. So obviously we'll start off with Mastermind and see what everybody thought of that tonight. And Claire, perhaps we'll talk to you about your experiences this series. Michael is a past series finalist on Mastermind. So be interesting again to get his perspective. Dave, have you been on Mastermind?
No, not yet.
No, so Dave is a viewer, like a lot of you, but Dave has been a series champion on Only Connect. Michael, you were a series semi-finalist, weren't you? I think on Only Connect.
So we've got like People's Champion a minute ago.
No, we're not talking about People's Champions. So we've got quite a lot of experience behind us on the screen tonight. So Mastermind. It threatened to be an incredibly close match at one point. Halfway, we got 3 contestants on 10 points, 1 on 9. I thought they all showed really good evidence of having prepped their subjects properly. I thought they're all very strong.
I've kept a tally of what they've got, and they've got 10, 10, and 9, but the first question was 10 out of 12, 10 out of 11, 10 out of 11. 9 out of 11, so yeah, they hardly missed anything for them.
Yeah, pretty much. Sancha, the only one she didn't get was she passed on it, and you know she was strong. She didn't panic after her first wrong answer. Dan was just like a machine. So yeah. They were both very
to find out what Michael got on. I know both myself and Michael are very strong on sport, so it'd be interesting to find. I'm sure Michael kept a score on what he would have got.
He did, yeah. I would have had 9 on that, which is 1 less than Dan got.
Sure. Same as me.
Yeah, same as you, Dave. Yeah,
same as me. I think we were fairly standard fare given the topic for without any prep, of course.
Sorry.
without any prep for us, of course. Yeah.
Well, exactly, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I thought the subjects were interesting. The Olympics, you got sport one, Hal Lane, fascinating scientist. You got the TV one, Hancock's Half Hour, and you got the novels. Really good spread.
If you'd asked me beforehand to put the categories of the people, I would not have given Sancho Hancock's Half Hour.
No.
Doesn't look old enough, does he?
Is the young girl going to pick Hancock's Half Hour? I don't know, but perhaps that's just me being daft.
Well, the art of picking a subject is picking one that you think you can nail for the show. And something like Hancock's Half Hour, where you've only got a certain amount of episodes and there's nothing beyond that you're going to get asked, is actually quite a good one. Yeah. Claire, what went through your mind when you were selecting subjects for this series?
I chose a load of subjects, and they cut out my two best subjects, which was the history of the Tour de France and Gilbert and Sullivan. So they wouldn't let me do either of those. So I then had to come up with something else. So, and I'd also put down Dickens novels, but when I applied, I didn't know how long it was going to be till I went on. So I had to say, look, I can't do Dickens. I've only read 8 out of 20 of them. I'm still ploughing my way through them.
Something happened sort of to me as well as when I got to the final, the first subject I was going to do was Spartacus. After about 2 weeks of reading, they came back to me to say there's not enough information on him, so can you pick something else? And I wouldn't give them a new subject there and then. I wanted to think about it before I give them something. I eventually came up with Father Ted, which I got the full house on. So that's something to remember. If your subject does get turned down, think about what your other one's going to be. Don't just come out with something straight away. Otherwise, in my final, Roderick Cromartie did that. He ended up with French cinema pre-1950. Which is quite a big task.
That's so incredibly broad. But there is that danger, because the first time I went on, I think I had like 8 or 9 subjects just rejected of, no, something too similar's on, or it's been done too recently. And then you risk just being bounced into, well, I know something about this, so I'll do that, without really thinking it through. So it does take...
I have had the interview to go on, and my issue was I could never agree on topics. They came back to me. I wanted to do the World's Strongest Man, and their argument was, well, there hasn't been enough books written about it. I'm like, well, okay, it's now 40 odd years old. Yeah, surely there's enough literature somewhere. But
so Claire,
semi-final subject.
Oh, sorry, Karen.
My semi-final subject. If you saw my heat, you'll know my semi-final subject I did from absolute scratch, from not knowing anything about it at all, which is an interesting way of attacking it.
Okay, what subject is that then, Claire?
The Russo-Japanese War.
Okay, so why did you pick that then, particularly?
Because my Kindle thought I might be interested in it. So I thought, okay, let's go for it. I really enjoyed studying it.
Well, I guess that's as good a reason as any to pick a subject if your Kindle recommends it, or Spotify or YouTube or whatever.
It lasts a great deal of time as well, which helps with any historical event that lasts 1 or 2 years is ideal, because there's only going to be so much you have to read up on.
No, that's right. As wars go, it was relatively short.
That's one reason why I picked the Salem Witch Trials in the final. It wasn't just because I could get a free holiday to Salem. It was because it lasted a year. So it was advisable.
Yeah, I picked for the final for one of the 3 years where I didn't make it through to the final. God damn it! The Texas Revolution, because equally it was quite a short thing, and I fancied a trip to Texas. So so I was thinking there is no way they can send me somewhere other than Texas with this one. Of course, now they don't send people on the international trips anymore, which is a real loss. So
go to the Holy Land.
So what was your first round, Claire?
John's Gospel,
Russo-Japanese War, and not giving anything away because we don't want spoilers on here. But if you were to make it to the final, Claire, what would be your final subject?
Cole Porter.
Oh, very good. So real mix of subjects, and yeah, got to admire that breadth, I think. Tonight,
I've got a lot of things I'm interested in. So.
Yeah, I thought tonight's episode had a couple of things to really get teeth into. One was the near miss, of which there were quite a lot. And poor old Anne.
That's plural, yes.
She said, let Sarah Lancaster for Sarah Lancashire.
Right,
She said Hoyle for Hoyle.
Yeah.
She said Herschel for Hershey.
Yeah, follow them.
Far off. I feel fine for feeling good. Then Sancha said trail instead of train.
Yeah.
George said the lakes rather than top of the lake. Yeah, there was so much where people were tantalizingly close.
But the other one where they were close and I thought a bit harsh, not giving them Ned for Black Ned. They asked for the Ned.
Yeah.
Ned.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a prompting protocol on Mastermind. There is certainly on like the chase does if you get it close.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think there is on Mastermind. I think it's just right or wrong.
You have to put your hand up if you disagree. If you put your hand up straight away, you can have an argument about it, and then they'll reset the clock and go back up once they've decided. But if you don't put your hand up, then there's no opportunity afterwards.
Yeah,
and you have to do it there and then, don't you? You can't wait until afterwards or after another round. Somebody else has been filmed when you sat there in the chair thinking, "Hang on, I'm sure I was right." You have to know it there and then, which piles a lot of pressure on you.
Right there and then, but then you risk being seen as a real strop bag, don't you?
Yeah. And I've never seen anyone do that in all the shows I've seen in the studio.
Yeah, so. I did. My first question on Erasmus Darwin, and I'm still to this day pretty sure they mangled it. I'd have to check, but I think they said something happened in one of his works, but then gave a different date. And anyway, because it's the first question, I thought, well, it's obviously that one, and went for it, and they said no, and it was like, but first question was meant to be the easy one. So I challenged it because I thought they'd got the question written wrong, and they didn't back down on it. So then I just had to compose myself and try and pick up the rest of the subject.
I mean, admittedly, it was clear, but I think it was a bit of, not giving Fred Foyle, then Hoyle. Yeah, fine. Okay, I've got to take the first answer. But then when Dan says St Edmund for Bury St Edmunds, and John says yes, Bury St Edmunds. I'm like, well, it's either one or the other. Come on, there was no give and take there.
Yeah, Foyle to Hoyle was instant. It wasn't like a delay of a second.
Yeah,
we were starting to say incorrect. It was she instantly corrected herself. So
yeah,
it's either one or the other. Yeah, either both were right or both were wrong.
Yeah, I think they have to make sure they're correct across the episode and across the whole series. And I don't know where they'd set the bar. I think it previously, again, I benefited from one where I did an immediate self-correction, and they allowed it. So I think that one felt a bit harsh. The rest felt a bit unfortunate. But if that's where they set the bar, I guess that's where they have it. The other thing, it was, again, poor old Anne, she just went into a bit of a spiral, and that's the thing we all dread, that sort of wrong answer, compounding wrong answer, and felt like, you're thinking about the previous one and not concentrating on the next one. And she just couldn't get herself going in that round. So I really, really felt for Anne, because I think she's a much better player than that score showed.
Yeah, both.
I've seen her before on something. She looked familiar.
Yeah. Talking of familiar, though, Dan turns out he'd been on Sport Mastermind.
Yeah.
So this is a guy with form. It was about 2008, I think. It was the same year that I first did Mastermind. So he did have form, and I'm not surprised seeing how well he did.
He was in the last series of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire as well.
Oh yes.
I didn't
Crashed and burned on 32.
Well, I dream of crashing and burning on 32,000, but I'd like to have the chance.
Michael, talking about Millionaire, honestly, I was shortlisted last November 19, and didn't make the cut, and it's just absolutely gutting.
You and me both.
Well, indeed. Michael, you did make the cut, and you did get in the chair. How does it compare doing something like Millionaire to something like Mastermind or one of the other shows?
Well, because you've got so much thinking time on Millionaire. But for me, Mastermind was probably more nerve-wracking because you've got to just get the answers out straight away. Whereas once you've got past fastest finger first, then you can be. To me, I could be as calm as I want because I could spend as long as I wanted on every question. I know other people might get more nervous just because the amount of money that's involved. And as I got further and further on, I became less inclined to want to take risks. But me, you get thinking. 64, I got. Nice. Unfortunately, I set my second lifeline at 125 and still had 4 lifelines left.
Then he phoned his friend.
He phoned a friend called Dave Bale, and just no one knew it. It was just too hard a question. I didn't want to go back down to a grand, so I had to take 64, which is not the hardest thing in the world to have to do. I haven't been forced to take 64 grand, but see, it could have been a lot nicer if I'd just known that one more question.
Yeah. Miles says, I think Millionaire is the dream, but getting past Contestants Row is the problem. Did you do any prep, particularly for getting past Contestants Row?
Oh, yeah. I would practice as much as I can. They send you like a Excel document or a PowerPoint thing of some questions, so you can practice on that. And I have loads of past Millionaire quiz books, so I went through them and I tested myself against family members to see if I could beat them for speed. So I'll just practice until I was in the chair. So it was second nature, where I would press the buttons and not thinking about what you were doing. Just your fingers are like a keyboard player. You just you know where your fingers have to go when it's certain things.
Yeah,
I did fastest finger first at Torquay Theatre in 2005 when they had Millionaire Live going around the country. So I got through fastest finger first and onto the stage.
Was that when did Mr. Lebet win something there?
I think Mark Lebet did win quite nicely.
I know Mark won, I think it was down that neck. There was either Mark or Kevin Ashman. Definitely won. I think they won.
Won the equivalent of $1 million or some kind of flashcard.
I got invited to London to go into the final of Millionaire Live, having been on the stage. And I've regretted it ever since. I turned it down because it clashed with my 40th birthday party. Everyone's been kicking me for that ever since.
Oh dear, unfortunate. But I haven't even had that choice. So anyway, if there's any casting producers watching, hello.
That's quite
shameless. On to Only Connect, Bridges versus Puzzle Hunters. This was a cracking episode, I thought. Really, really tight all the way through. 2 really good teams and some great answers. I have to say, for me, the picture round, the first one right up, it's like I called the David Bowie one, but for completely wrong reason. I saw the kids from Fame and thought, oh, they're young Americans, and it was like, oh. But,
exactly what they said. Is it Kids in America? On the first one, when you say, is it Kids in America?
Yeah.
A bit of a swerve for Kim Wilde songs. But then, the penny dropped when Fame and Young Americans. And nice question, though. Nice question.
It was. Interestingly, Grace has said she was watching a QI clip the other day. Captain of the Puzzle Hunters, Katie Steckles, was on to explain a math joke. So the clip is on their YouTube channel. Which, I didn't know about that, but I knew I'd kind of seen her before. But it's symptomatic of the good players that Only Connect gets on there.
I'm just looking at I think round 1, I got Bowie songs for 3, Gold Rushes for 3. Didn't get the Capitals at all, which they got.
Yeah, I thought that was a great question, the Capitals one. I would have had it for 1, but they got it for 2. But I thought it was great.
And then test card. Yeah, that's people showing their age into that. But,
the test card felt like something that must have been on before. It had almost a nostalgic quality to me.
Yeah. I think if you knew Bubbles the Clown.
Yeah, that was
how Percy was coming up last. So.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think what else there was. Oh, sorry. Just going back before round 1. One thing I chuckled at was on the intros today, prior to Victoria's letter from Joe. After the letter from Joe, so introducing teams. Much as we all like to have done it, but one of the chaps on the Puzzle Hunters said he'd been in 100 pubs in 3.5 years. That's like one every 10 days.
It's not much of an achievement, is it?
Yeah, that's
It's not that many.
no.
Yeah,
It's an achievement for 2020.
you're sat there thinking, "Come on!" It's like,
Amateur.
we've done that in lockdown.
They probably do that many pubs in different pubs in that amount of time.
Yeah, so I thought it was a fairly kind of standard episode. I think things like the gold rushes were not that hard to kind of jump into, really.
Like the walls were both very almost guaranteed 10 pointers. I would have thought if you spotted the wordy one, and I think they were both very straightforward 10 pointers.
Yeah.
To get the wordy ones before anything else. It's the only thing I'm good at.
I do think with the wall, now that they've almost kind of replicated the two walls, and to the point today where the wordy ones were both pretty much the same, that actually for the viewers at home, it makes the second wall quite a lot easier to tackle. And as we covered last week on the stream with the Walruses and Whodunits, the teams don't get to see the other teams playing this. So they don't know what the other team have done, and they won't get any clues from it. But obviously, at home, it's a different matter.
Yeah, you knew what you're looking for certainly on the wordy one again. You knew exactly what to look for. And once that was solved, it was fairly straightforward.
Yeah. It amazed me that whether or not they were stalling or whether they were just like riding the clock out. That they were second guessing themselves on things that are in the 7 wonders of the world.
Yeah,
I thought that was fairly standard fare, given like the 4 that they've given them, the lighthouse and the pyramid sort of thing.
Yeah, fairly early on caught that list really. So, as soon as you see lighthouse and mausoleum. And Colossus was a red herring, but nonetheless there was statue and temple, wasn't there? I think.
Yeah.
So it's quite general knowledge. The X-Men probably being harder, I think, for some.
England all-rounders was nice in the same group as they put the all-rounder.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was quite tidy.
I did think that's sweet.
But then, you have to assume that. Well, what else can Flintoff be in?
It's one of the. I think Rhodes is the only one that people probably may not have heard of, but there's so many things that could be surnames.
Yeah.
Wilfred Rhodes, you like this one, Gareth? Wilfred Rhodes played Test cricket in 5 different decades, 1899 to 1930.
Nice fact there, Dave. But there was another Rhodes, wasn't there, later on?
John T.
I think I'm thinking of Stephen Rhodes or something. But anyway,
he wasn't Steve. He wasn't really in the class of the both of them.
Not really, no. But so Northup, all-rounder, Flintoff, Naseby. Once you've kind of sealed the others, you just have to work out what's going on there, and they did. So that was good.
I like who connected the sequence picture round, although the first clue for Haw, which is I thought to myself, they've put something I just didn't recognise. You could show me again, I probably wouldn't recognise. I thought Lord Haw might have been a better.
Yeah, and I put in my notes a slightly dodgy picture of Ethan Hawke.
Yes. I got a question from Zachary. Do you as quizzers prefer questions with harder answer lines or questions with much harder clues but standard answer lines?
I don't understand the question.
I prefer one with harder clues myself. I want it to be an answer line. It's something I've heard of, not like a complicated term or something that's...
Yeah.
But harder clues is preferable for me.
4 hard things that lead you into an easier answer. That would be
So a well-known person, but the clues are a much lesser known aspect of their work or their life, which then rewards deeper knowledge rather than interesting facts. But then when you hear the name, you've got no idea who on earth they're talking about.
It's like when you do like a pyramidal buzzer quiz. And you get the most obscure fact first in the read, and then the second. By the end of it, it's what's his name sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think getting the interesting things in there, even if they are obscure, but treat the answer as something that I think that's forgetting what people treat the answer as something that everybody will know.
Yeah. And I agree. For television purposes, doubly important, because you don't want it on something like Only Connect, particularly, but on other shows, you don't want to get to the end and the viewers go, "Oh, right, well, I was never going to get that because I've never heard of this person. There was absolutely but people want to think, oh, that's interesting about Einstein or whoever. So Zachary, I think that's your answer. We prefer tough clues leading to an accessible answer line.
If I was going to dig at Only Connect tonight, I didn't like the missing vowels.
Really?
The questions and answers. I thought it was it was.
The answers were obvious, weren't they?
If you realised that the answers were the answers to the questions.
The answer was a memory test rather than.
It was more of a memory test than exactly.
Yeah, see, I kind of thought that was cute, but I thought it was cute doing it once, and then they did the flipping the positive and the negative, and I thought, I wasn't so sure on that, but I quite like the questions and the answers.
Coming though.
The questions were, the first one was fine because they all work outable.
Yeah.
I just thought the answer one was a misstep just because it was a memory test rather than the missing vowels test. But yeah, the Proverbs ones were both fine. But there was no quick, they were all long ones as well, which sometimes you like a shorter one every now and again just to mix things up.
They can be just as difficult, can't they, the short ones?
Yes, no, they can be, particularly when there are a lot of vowels in there and you've got to work out where they sit. I'm not sure how to take this comment. You guys look like the Chasers. Well, let's guess who's who then.
If only we were.
Indeed. If only we got paid to live the dream.
Checked in the mail.
Sadly, Mega Munch, we're not. So what we had then was a 24-22 win. It was really up in the air till the death. Bridges were a good team. It's a real pity to say goodbye to them.
Yeah.
But Puzzle Hunters, I think they've got strength throughout that team. Really good team.
A better team dynamic. The Hunters, I think all three were chipping in. Katie seemed to be very strong, the strongest man, but they were all chipping in, and Paul was very good at the vowels. Yeah, so they've got potential there, definitely to do pretty well.
One of the criticisms that came up on Twitter of one of the members of the Bridges, can't remember her name, but was that she immediately was repeating the first thing that came up. Now, I thought that was a good tactic. I think that sometimes on Only Connect, you get into a clue by hearing it rather than just by reading it. So I thought that was a really good.
You got 40 seconds as well, so why not?
I think it's something to do subconsciously as well, because you're like, you're reading it. You do read it out loud sometimes. Yeah, that's just subconscious.
Yeah. Claire, did you go in to your mastermind with any particular tactics in mind?
Apart from getting the questions right, I did try not to pass. I know everybody tries not to pass, but I think it's not necessarily a good tactic because you can waste a lot of time. And I think sometimes if you just say pass, you get another question more quickly. I'm still the jury's still out on that. I think
we sorry, go on, Michael.
In the era of long questions, though, like we're getting now, I think passing is probably something you definitely want to avoid, just because I think not passing. I mean, passing and hoping you get another question because you've passed is probably not going to happen because the question is going to take so long.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the only person who passed in the specialist round has still got the same number of questions as everyone else. So just because questions are so long.
And the quizzes have a set of kind of go-to answers which are unashamedly kind of predictable. So if it's a German and you don't know the answer, throw out Schmidt, for example. Tonight, the guy didn't do that. Would have got.
It's a shame, isn't it? I was wanting him to say Schmidt.
I really do think that the general knowledge was very, very accessible tonight. for me, 16 on Anne's, 15 on Dan, 14 on George, and 11 on Sancha. Now, whether or not Sancha's worked hard, I know she really struggled, but just feels like I think the pressure got to her at the end.
Yeah, I think she got the least number of questions. Is probably why the scores were down. I think she was taking a bit longer.
She was.
Yeah, she did hesitate a bit more than the others.
Although George was very measured and very steady in his answering, but actually he could have done with upping the pace a little bit. I don't think it would have made 4 points difference, but it certainly didn't help him to be as metronomic as he was.
It will be interesting to see as well whether they'll let Dan have another sport club. I mean, if he's clearly a sport specialist, whether or not they'll let him have another go at a sport question.
Yeah, I don't think they do. I think I certainly had to do 3 different subjects when I picked one sport for one, but I had to do 2 completely different things for the other 2. But I don't know whether that's a rule anymore.
It's the Sean Wallace rule, isn't it?
Yeah.
He did 3 very similar subjects.
Yeah, all 3 football.
Yeah, and that hasn't happened.
You wouldn't be allowed to do that now.
No. And those were different days. A couple of different production teams back, but nonetheless, well, it will be interesting because if you want to win Mastermind, you've got to have a broad knowledge, and I think he showed he's got a broad knowledge in his general knowledge. So now he's got an opportunity to show it elsewhere, which would be good and interesting. Just moving on to University Challenge. I don't know what you guys made of it tonight. I thought the difference between the teams for me was that Balliol had the buzzes spread around the team. So they got one good player, really strong player in O'Connor, but then Schofield and Crowther were chipping in, whereas Kings, until very near the end, it was Triggs or nothing.
Triggs or nothing, yeah.
I think having one really strong player and 3 weaker players, it can get you so far, but if that strong player has a bad game or the other team are just really hammering it, then you snooker. So I think you do need to spread it out a little bit.
You said
I haven't finished watching it yet because my son phoned me in the middle.
O'Connor was the strongest on the Balliol side, starters wise. But I think for me, having watched the whole game, Crowther would be my player of the match. For simple reasons, she seemed to chip in a lot more when the bonuses did come out. She was the one. She was, I think, the go-to player for the bonus answers.
Well, I think between her and Schofield on the other side of O'Connor, she was chipping in with the science stuff, and when she buzzed in on Planetary Nebula, the delight on her face was like one of the highlights of the whole show. It was brilliant, and because that is the feeling you get when you get a buzz that perhaps you're not entirely sure about, and you get those words, that word correct, and you suddenly, but we don't normally show it quite like that. And so I thought that was wonderful. But I thought she was very good, and Crowther was good, and then O'Connor anchoring, and Kings just didn't have that. There were a couple of negs from Zoo. Triggs was strong, but Jackson and Weaver didn't really come in till later on in the game, and that ultimately there was too much to do at that point.
I don't think I'd be being impolite if I said I don't think we're going to see either of the winning teams there.
Well, yeah.
It's early days, but if I was a betting man, which I am, I would not be putting my money on either of them.
It's a low scoring game. It's 145 ticks on 95, so it's a pretty low scoring game. Like normally, if a team only gets 95, you'd want the winning team to get closer to 200 if you were expecting them to win it.
Yeah.
Although it did feel
because it's on pause, and there's a naked man whose bottom is facing me.
That's as
far as I got with it.
That's a good. I like both picture rounds, the borders and the bums. I thought let's see. I was reading something in the summer about that when they did like the various museums did give us your best example of this. Obviously, the ones that they showed tonight was bums. And somehow one of them, the other category, gives your best example of a duck. And the National Railway Museum in York sent in a picture of a mallard.
Nice.
That was then taking the mickey on it. Though. But yeah, the picture bonuses, the borders, I thought were a nice little touch. If you recognise the outlines of the country, and, as much as they did so well on the pitch of the bums, in comparison, they did so badly on the music.
Yeah.
It was painful. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, given the age, I wouldn't expect them to.
No, but it's.
Yeah, I mean, Everly Brothers.
Everly Brothers on the first chord, I think.
But you don't
Better than
mind
usually do on
don't
music.
mind getting it wrong, apart from, please, just sort of like, try and get the gender right.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Tommy Wynette for Roy Orbison, please, come on.
It was perhaps not their finest moment. They got Tammy Wynette in their head, I think, after the Dolly Parton question, and somehow thought, oh well, if it's in that sort of ballpark, you know, that if they wrote for Dolly Parton, maybe they'll have written for Tammy Wynette, and they just didn't think about the tone of the voice they were listening to. Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's a feature, I guess, of the series, and maybe it's just how, you know, we're all getting a bit older, that we now look at these 20-somethings and marvel that they don't know artists that we're fully aware of. Maybe that's just the nature of the beast, that when we were university age, there would have been equivalent artists we wouldn't have got. I don't know.
Certainly when I was at pub quizzes back in the day when I was 18, all the 50s and 60s pop music came on, and there was nowhere on them, and all the people who were then 50 or 60, it was absolutely easy for them. They couldn't believe it. So it's the same kind of situation. I think.
But you might have guessed whether it was a man or a woman.
Yeah, I would know.
Okay, flip-flopping on the Masked Singer on some of them, which I guess is part of the point of the program. There's a lot of talk, obviously, always about Mastermind having long questions. I did think there was something in University Challenge today. You know, 10 minutes into the show, there were very few points on the board, and some of the discussions were really long. There's one on the lathe in an art bonus step, which it was 5 minutes from the end of the show, but it just went on and on and on. That felt very odd for University Challenge to me.
Jeremy doesn't usually have that much patience, does he?
Yeah.
I think I counted. There was definitely fewer than 20 starters in the show, put it out there.
Yeah.
I think it was only maybe 17 or 18, including a couple of next.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think, reiterating, I don't think we've seen the best to come yet.
Yeah, and there are some great teams in this series. Maybe not all-time greats. That has yet to be seen. But there are some good teams. So we'll await what happens coming forward. I know we've got Michael Cohn from Imperial joining us on the chat on the 8th of February. So that'll be interesting. His Imperial side will have been on the week before. So we'll hear more from him.
Cool.
And it's interesting, you know, again, I wonder if some of us old stagers, whether we underestimate the impact of COVID and COVID recording on some of this, and the I suppose if you've never done it before, you wouldn't know it's different. But I wonder if there are things that make the experience suboptimal. Claire, did you find anything with Mastermind that you thought was less good than it could have been because of COVID?
Definitely. You're stuck in your dressing room for ages before the recording, and they spend. There was some celebrity masterminds going on beforehand, and they bring you over from the hotel, and because you can't sit in a green room and chat to anybody, you're just sat in your dressing room waiting and waiting and waiting, and an hour and a half after we got there, then we were called in to go into the studio, and it's just, it's a bit meh.
Yeah, so you missed out on everybody being together in the green room, uneasy conversation, but at least you get to pass the time with somebody.
So you had to do that in the hotel.
Yeah.
But at the semi, the dressing room was so hot. I was having to stand in the doorway just to get some cold air in from the corridor.
Okay.
And I just started to get a really bad headache.
So that is a very different experience from my experiences on Mastermind, and probably also yours, I imagine, Michael. You know, they generally get you in, brief you all together. You might have one-to-ones with various assistant producers, and you get your makeup done and clothing sorted. But for the most part, you're kind of all together in a green room, aren't you?
Yeah. And you can bring two friends or family members as well with you, which I don't know if you can do in this series. At least you've got your friends and your family to talk to, or so you feel a lot more comfortable in that kind of situation.
I had to beg to be made up because I said, if you don't do my makeup, I will not have two eyes the same. I said my eyesight is not good enough to do it myself. So they had pity on me.
Yeah,
did they allow you to bring a guest with you into studio? No. So so that is a big difference.
My husband went into the heat, but he had to stay at the hotel.
Yeah. It made you feel well, I think, because you've just essentially been speaking to my mum and my sister for 2 hours. So I felt really relaxed going into the studio. If you're in a dressing room on your own and it's boiling hot, and it's going to be a lot more difficult because you're not relaxed going in. So. Yeah.
I think conversely for me, I was more relaxed when I didn't have people with me. And then I wasn't worrying about whether they were okay and whatever, because there comes a point where they're separated from you. And so that, I almost preferred it when it was just me, but then there are enough people from the quiz circuit that would be there recording on the same day, either just before you or coming after you, that there'd always be somebody to chat to that and you could just relieve the pressure that way. So the only time I've ever been stuck in a dressing room, not allowed to see anybody, was Series 2 of Only Connect, which had the previous contestant team, not the current one. And literally, it was like we had teams either side of us who we knew very well because we played them at all sorts of tournaments, including one just the weekend before. And they said, "Oh no, you can't mix with the other team." And it's like, well, we know them. We know how good they are. I've got his number on my phone. It was really bizarre, and that was a very strange experience for me. Much better when we went back again.
Yeah, they certainly got rid of that rule. I was on 3 or 4 series after you, Gareth. They certainly got rid of that rule by then, and we were happily talking away with Steve Dodding and Andy Tucker and you and Thomas when we were playing them in the semis.
We had a funny moment when we did the champions versus champions, Series 3 versus Series 4. And obviously we'd been shown and they filmed all Series 4, and we're walking down the corridor and this chap comes towards us and he goes, the gamblers. I'm like, I looked around at Alan looks at me, he's like, who the hell's this fella? Anyway, he's obviously there for celebrity on the Connect. Wouldn't recognise him, Andrew Motion.
Right.
I'm like, who's this bloke? Who's it? How's he know who I am? Yeah.
So you didn't go into studio and have Victoria goes, and Dave Bill, who blanked a poet laureate.
That's the next time. Yeah.
We've had a couple of comments back to UC. Miles says Jeremy is definitely getting slower. It does feel that he is to me. But interesting, this is from Dave Matthews. I think this is the same Dave Matthews who plays in the Quiz League of London. It's fascinating as a viewer hearing more conferring on UC. So we're bemoaning that you might miss out on questions, but actually he's saying that hearing that thought process where a team pieces things together, and I've got a degree of sympathy with that, where a team pieces something together and comes up with an answer from apparently nowhere, but genuine teamwork. I really do enjoy seeing genuine teamwork as long as it actually leads to a decent answer. And it's a very different experience from being a solo player on Mastermind, something like Early Connect or University Challenge, where you really want to be bringing the best out of each other as much as anything, and have a team where you're on the same wavelength, but you bring different things to the party.
Yeah. It must be difficult on University Challenge at the moment. Obviously, with the screens up, being the contestant at the far end.
Yes.
So you're not just going through one stream, you're going through 2.
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit sorry for Tomasi tonight because while she was at Schofield, spent the whole time like this, talking
Yeah.
to the captain, and he's basically talking through a screen, to the back of her head, through another screen, struggling to get yourself heard. Now,
Yeah, presumably before the person on the extreme side would just lean over and speak to the captain, whereas you can't do that. So it would be.
I think they're mic'd up and have earpieces, but nonetheless, it's not the same. And I think it's probably no coincidence that Tomasi and Zoo both were literally, as well as kind of figuratively, out on a limb there. Both in terms of buzzing in and general contribution, they did feel a little bit out on a limb, which is unfortunate for the team dynamics, definitely. On a different note, I think this is being addressed to Michael. Is that a litre of dark rum being swigged?
No, that's a bottle of Maximus, which is like a slightly stronger version of the more Maximus. So it's a beer.
Okay. So James, unfortunately not. A day's on the beer. Claire, I don't know what your tipple of choice is.
The remains of a cup of coffee.
Well, there you go, guys. These are insights into lifestyles of the quizzing famous. I've got a water.
I'm trying to shed all the pounds that I put on through studying for Mastermind.
Oh, really? So just staying in and doing a lot of reading and all that prep, that's made you a sedentary person.
And lockdown generally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just didn't do as much cycling as I would normally.
Yeah. I mean, guys, we've kind of covered a lot of the TV stuff. What's been keeping you sane, quiz-wise, during lockdown? What are the tournaments, competitions that have really been, just fulfilling the stuff that's been, filling the hole that's been taken away in other quiz? I can't even speak right now. You know what I mean?
I know you only recently joined us, but myself and Mike have been quizzing every day. We have a little competition going every day at 6 o'clock, 50 questions, and it's just good to see some other faces. It started off with about a dozen of us, and I think this afternoon we had 34 of us playing, something like that.
It was a lot to do, yeah.
It's brilliant. It's a nice little community. We've just sort of all gathered round and got together and decided that, we're all going to be in the same place for that 1 hour every day, and absolutely fantastic. I mean, I know right at the start of the first lockdown, I was furloughed, and I was going to and I write quizzes for a living. So what did I do? I thought I was going to do some quizzes. So I ended up, I won a few things. I won a little Google Mini thing, and I won a 12-month beer subscription. And it was good. I mean, I don't think I've done any less quizzing. In fact, I've probably done more. So it's been an eye-opener. The fact that I just hope it all I think I said last time I was on, I just hope this quiz addiction that a lot of people are developing translates into people going to pubs when they're allowed to again. So
that's what I'm hoping as well. Just becomes more and more quizzes available after lockdown. Certainly been plenty available during lockdown. You've got the online quiz league, that started quarantine quiz league, which I used to go to the Grand Prix every month with the guys from the northeast. Obviously, we can't see each other now, but we're in the team together in both online quiz leagues, so we see each other all the time anyway. But I'm still seeing people, just unfortunately not in person.
Sean Wallace's Facebook quiz sometimes.
Sean does a sporadic, but sometimes weekly, quiz, doesn't he? Live quiz.
Yeah, he's starting again this week.
Yeah.
It's going to be useful because I'm rubbish at pop culture.
Sean's own one, or Sean one that he does on a Monday night with us?
No. Sean Wallace is
right.
Sean Wallace from The Chase, Michael, of course, has done a couple of things for All Things Quiz, if I do a shameless plug. He did a 4-3-3 challenge, which he won, and he did the first Quiz Omnium. And so shameless plug, the first episode of Quiz Omnium 2 came out today. So if you haven't watched Sabotage, then watch it, because we've got 4 new contestants.
So some of my questions are on there as well.
And indeed, Michael has helped write for us. And Claire, in fact, you've chipped in some questions with Quiz Omnium. So Dave didn't, because Dave was reserve. So this is all new today. So for me, all things quiz is one of the things that's been keeping me going, but also a bit of quizzing. I do online Quiz League London, the 6 o'clock thing as well recently, which has been a good discovery. Probably the most enjoyable quizzing I'm doing, actually, to be fair. Grace, one day, Grace, we're going to have to get you on this show if you want to come on. Email us at allthingsquiz@gmail.com. Grace watches every week, comments every week. Grace has said, watching all of Only Connect got me through, discovered it during lockdown. The joy of discovering a new show for the first time and then being able to box set it. Oh, amazing. It's like
I think it's on YouTube as well, so you'll be able to get series.
Indeed, I remember somebody saying when I was about to watch Breaking Bad that they absolutely envied the fact that I was about to go on that journey, and they were so envious of me. And I guess it's something like that with Only Connect. Well, you've never seen it, and you've got 15 seasons to walk through.
I binge watched the whole of Line of Duty about 10 days ago.
Oh well, there you go. Maybe
sleep again.
It's back in March for season 6, I'm told.
Excellent. Miles says he's watching Old UC, which is how I know Jeremy is slower. It'd be interesting to know how he compares to Bamba Gascoigne in the really old era, because my memory of Bamba Gascoigne is that he used to rattle through questions.
Well, obviously, Magnuson was vastly faster than John Humphrey, so it may be the case here that Bamba was equally quicker. You used to be able to get Kevin Ashford's record of 41 is never going to be repeated. John Humphrey guy 5 questions, never mind 41.
Yeah, no, I think Kevin's safe. I think the only regret on Kevin Ashman's record is that I don't think it's on YouTube anywhere. So
I have seen it
for it.
On TV, but on YouTube.
Yeah, I think somehow we need
to. Documentary the other week, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? The entirety of his round would be
how quizzing became cool or something.
Oh yeah. That Paddy Duffy, friend of all things quiz, was on and partly involved with. I think it's a decent documentary, that one. Takes kind of the TV, but also the competitive quizzing side of things very seriously. Very good. Was there anything else that we've noticed tonight or in recent quizzes the last few days, last week?
I'm going to put a plea out, a direct plea to Mr. Richard Osmond, to Richard Osmond. Just, can we have House of Games for Muggles? We don't want celebrities.
Yeah.
Let's have some proper contestants on. Let's get some proper. It'll be good. Yeah. I know. It'll be good. I think I'd love a go, but you're never going to get anywhere near. Just because it's a celebrity. Surely it costs them 5 times as much by paying people to sit there.
Exactly.
On a similar note, I'd like them to junk Celebrity Mastermind. I think it really does a disservice to the brand.
It's at its time, I think, Celebrity Mastermind. I totally agree with that. It's just half the people you've never heard of anyway. It's so slow again. John Humphreys is just so slow again for the questions.
I think that the thing that disappoints me the most about that is that I do some writing for Mastermind, and when you see somebody who's done no prep, and you've worked really hard to learn a set, prepare it, write it, craft it, send it in, and somebody hasn't really done even the basics, I find that disappointing. Which is why I'm cheering contestants on when I see them doing sets I've written. I want them to do well. I know the work they'll have had to put in to do well, and when I see them do well, it's brilliant. It's like credit to you because I know you've put the hard yards in. But
I got more Fossey questions than Kimberly did with no prep.
Yeah, because likewise, I've written for Mastermind, I've written for Australian Mastermind, and I wanted to see the contestants get maybe one wrong, so I can catch up. But I wanted to see them do really well, and it never felt right. We'll get low marks on my questions. Either I pitched it wrong, or I just haven't put any work in.
Because we know what it's like. Claire, myself, Michael, Dave, not yet, but maybe your time will come. To the amount of work you have to put in to really know you've nailed a subject, the amount of hours you have to do, the amount of notes you have to take, questions you draft, if that's your way of doing it.
That was 2 months solid, definitely. That was the main thing I did. And that was for one round. So it was like, in the final, so it was 6 months solid, basically. Because obviously I didn't win in the end. Not much to show for it. So
I remember talking to Michael on the day of the Mastermind final. He won't get told off telling me. He actually rang me on the day that he didn't win the final. Not upset that he didn't win, upset that he wasn't even the best quizzer on Teesside. Because the final, obviously now we're now all good friends, but in the final that Michael came third and Clive Dunning won. So, yeah.
That reminds me of somebody said to Mark Waugh, "At least I'm the best cricketer in my family."
James Ormond, it was James Ormond.
Dear, there ought to be more sledging in quiz. No, actually, there's enough of that on Twitter. We don't want.
One of the things as well, just to talk about Gareth. I mean, I know you reviewed it last week. No, sorry, Jeopardy. You did.
Yes.
A British question talk about Jeopardy. Last week saw the comeback of Jeopardy in the States. You can find it on YouTube. But the guest host at the moment is Ken Jennings. And I've watched the first 5 episodes, and he is fabulous.
Is he? Oh, that's good.
He's brilliant, very humble. I mean, they've started the show with sort of like everything. He's come out and said maybe a couple of lines about Alex Trebek every day. They will obviously fade that out to a point, but yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant. Not come across as like all-knowing, which we all know he is. Very humble, very brilliant with the contestants, and it's been an absolute breath of fresh air. But to keep introducing him as the guest host, so it does make you think that he's not going to get the job done.
Yeah, they've got a whole range of guest hosts coming from sport, politics, all over the place. But presumably at some point they'll settle on a winning formula. Maybe, it's an impossible job to follow Alex Trebek.
Yes.
Maybe this is a little bit of a sorbet, a bit of a palate cleanser for people, and then they'll settle on somebody who is acknowledged as being really good and have them in.
Yeah, because some shows you just couldn't place the host. Like anyone else other than Victoria on Only Connect, you just can't imagine it. Or Bradley Walsh on The Chase. It was like a lot like that for Alex Trebek. So yeah, they need to do something to prepare people for a new host, because obviously we want the show to keep going.
Yeah,
they need to find
Richard Whiteley.
Well, it is very much a Richard Whiteley situation, isn't it? And they struggled to find somebody to follow him, really.
Do you know who's got it more then after Nick Hewitt? Has that been announced yet?
Well, Colin Murray did a little.
He's on it now, the one who's been shown now. I don't know if he's permanent.
No. But he did a decent job, I thought. But, not that I watched Countdown that much, but I thought he did a fairly decent job. It'll be interesting to see what happens again, with that show. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thanks for everybody who's watched, and thanks for everybody who's commented. There are a few comments in there which led me to block people. Some of the Twitter fringe managed to find its way to us, but for those of you who've been watching, really appreciate you watching. If you're watching on catch up, please do join us again on Thursdays 9 p.m. GMT. Thanks to Claire, Michael, and Dave for joining me and chipping in insightful comments as ever. And have a great week, and hopefully we'll see some of you again soon on the channel. And just a reminder, check out some of the other videos on All Things Quiz, and if you haven't subscribed, click that magic subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it gets my numbers up and makes me happy. So everybody wants to see me. So, Miles says, thanks for another great evening. Miles, thanks for joining us. People like you, Miles, really contribute to the evening. You really help make it go with a swing. Likewise, Grace, regular commentator, James. It's brilliant having you here. Sometimes it takes us off in different flights of fancy, and it makes it interesting if we don't quite know where the evening's going. So Thank you very much, everybody, and stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Watch the Omnium now. Night all.
See ya.
And then
See ya.